With us now, let's go ahead and bring in Pamela Good. She is the president from Beyond Basics, a nonprofit focused on getting our kids reading. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Before we get into talking about the op-ed in the Detroit News, give us a little bit of background for those that maybe aren't aware of your organization and your mission.
Yes, well, we're a nonprofit organization, literacy focused. We've done the majority of our work in Detroit public schools and some charter schools there. We've really worked with kids who are farthest behind in reading and have figured out a way to get them reading at grade level in about 6 weeks. And so with that, we've just continued to reach more kids.
So with that, what are you seeing right now in the middle of the pandemic when it comes to kids and reading loss?
Well, I think that with many things during COVID is that it's highlighting our weaknesses. And, I think that it's highlighted immediate needs of families who probably struggle every day and aren't on our radar. It's highlighted technology shortages. It's also highlighted literacy because it's much more difficult to hide out one-on-one on a screen than it is in a classroom with kids when you don't read as well as them. And so the real question, I think, is once we've seen all of this, what are we as people going to do about it?
And this is not a parent issue. This is really a community issue. So how do you get people engaged in wanting to address this problem?
I think knowing about it is the first step and that people are aware. But we really have had and have currently many people struggling in our communities. And I know that it's in all of us. I mean, we light up when we can help someone, and there are many people in need. And so I really do hope that people will step out of their comfort zone and jump into some of these areas and just do what they can to walk alongside people. And as it relates to literacy, that means advocating for it, funding it, being a tutor.
So with that, how can people get involved? Can they volunteer right now because so many things are still closed down?
Yeah. So volunteering, not so much, but our tutors are actually paid staff. They're employed by Beyond Basics. It's an hour a day, 5 days a week with the student, some administrative work along with that. So I would say they can be trained as tutors and work from home right now because our tutoring is online.
I love that you are passionate about this issue because it can be hard for so many of the teachers to identify the students that need the help when they're in the classroom. And now you put them virtually. And we do know so many of the kids are so much more tech savvy than we are as adults. So they're better at hiding some of these issues instead of getting the help that they need. How much of this is a funding issue as well to try to get more teachers in the classrooms?
Yeah, so I think that you have this illiteracy issue impacting education has gone on for decades. And the results of it are today, 85% of the kids attending Detroit public schools do not read well enough to really access their grade level, education.
That's a shocking number. That is a shocking number.
And it's not a new number. This number has been out there since the last national report was in 2005. So this isn't a new number. And I think that I call it a silent epidemic. We have a lot of good intentions, but this has just slipped by. And the fact that we can get kids reading now at grade level on average in 6 weeks, we really need to embrace it. And so teachers in the classroom, if you have 85% of your kids that are not up to grade level in reading, how do you prepare them for the next year? So it's really an impossible situation. And so we have two things to do. We have to get all those kids that missed it reading as quickly as we can, and then we need to fix the educational model to include kids that are far behind.
So prior to the pandemic, sometimes getting people to change the way they operate, especially when we're dealing with unions as well, can be a challenge. But because of COVID, so many conversations are open and change is being forced upon people. Do you think now it makes it a good time to make this a priority to change then fix the system?
I think it's a great time. One, because you have everybody looking at these problems, and this literacy impacts so many other issues. Once you get a child literate, they can now take advantage of those educational dollars and succeed in life. So it impacts many, many things. But I think one of the things that's happening right now is that we have all this funding pouring into the state for COVID-related, CARES Act money. But these dollars definitely could move towards solving this problem in all of these districts. And it's going to empower communities if we use it in that way.
Pamela Good with us here on the MegaCast. She's the president for Beyond Basics. Tell us about House Bill 4480.
Well, you're talking about the $94 million. Yes. So there's so many House bills going around.
It's hard to keep up with them, right?
But, that is literacy lawsuit money. And with that settlement, the students represented in it were given, awarded, I guess you could say, $40,000 each. And then there was a group of dollars that was given to go to help the district. And so that legislation is in front of the legislature right now. And I believe it has great support on both sides of the aisle. And it really, I would love to see it go towards literacy in the Detroit community who needs it more. There are many more kids there that need it. So I'm in favor of it. And I hope that it actually makes its way to get kids reading.
How do we take when we hear these things and we get that money? Let's say it does pass, they get the money. So many times the kids don't really benefit as much as they should because that piece of the pie, by the time it gets down to where it needs to be, has dwindled so much. How can we ensure that this money actually supports the kids and we can see the results and they get the help that they need?
I think that instead of sending these resources to the kids that are just a little bit behind, I don't know how to say it more clear than that. That's where all the interventions are right now. These dollars should go to children who are farthest behind. And it would be an organization like ours that is doing one-on-one intensive tutoring. Anything short of one-on-one intensive, and I mean an hour a day, 5 days a week, isn't going to move the needle for these children, and they would just be left lagging and pass behind. So I think it needs to be used strategically, not just literacy as a blanket, word. Literacy can be giving a child a book, or it can be doing this intensive work. And we need the intensive work to be done so all those kids can read books.
So tell us more about how your program actually works as well. What makes it different?
Yeah, so we do assess every child before we begin tutoring. It's so important to know how far behind they are and where they need help. And then we pair that child with a trained, certified tutor. They work an hour a day, one-on-one, 5 days a week, anywhere from 4 to 14 weeks. So the kids that are farthest behind have more weeks. But that is the recipe for getting any child reading.
If I can ask you, what made you become such an advocate for kids in the Detroit public schools?
I delivered coats one day. You remember that story. And my heart was just open to a community that seemed to need everything. And I did not know about the literacy crisis when I delivered coats, or even it took like 4 years before I realized the kids couldn't read. I was really just trying to do the best I can to help people who seemed like they needed everything. And those were academic enrichment programs in the school. I was putting coats on kids. And I think that that's the challenge for all of us, just wherever we are, to step out and help someone. And it's amazing. I did not have a vision for all of this when I left the school that day. I think when you step out with good intentions for others and yourself, that it takes you someplace, you didn't expect, and hopefully a good.
Well, we are all happy that you happened to stop by that school that day to deliver coats because it has led to this. What's been the biggest impact on you and some of the kids you've been able to help?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I mean, the kids that we help, I mean, to watch a child wake up to words and know that the rest of their life is going to be different and better, and that their children will be readers is huge. I mean, that's the reason we do this, to change the direction of that life and to empower them. But in my own life, I think that own spiritual growth has been the biggest impact. When you take on something that's much bigger than yourself, you need the Almighty Lord and Savior to help you out. And so there have been mountains, peaks that we've seen kids reading, and those are the great days. But there have been many days where I've been on my knees just praying that we can get to the next day. And so that growth, relying on God outside of myself to help, is really, for my personal journey, has made all the difference.
It's the faith. You operate on faith.
Yeah, faith and courage. Those two. Yes.
I think so many people would really be surprised to understand and to learn just how big of a problem this is.
Oh my goodness. Illiteracy, I believe, is connected to almost every social ill in America. And it's created such a problem that we haven't been able to take care of so many others in need that really need it. Think about this. We're taking people who are capable and we're forcing them to live in a social service system that doesn't function well. And it gets in the way for us really taking care of those that aren't capable, that we need to take better care of. And we're at a crossroads in our nation, I believe, to decide what we're made of. And are we that person that's going to inconvenience ourselves to help someone else? And the jury's out on that. I believe in us. I see so many good-natured people, generous people, inspired, positive people, that I think that we're at a turning point to a better day, a better normal. And that's my hope, and that keeps me going also.
Well, that is, you are a lady who gets things done, and we are all grateful to have you. And we should note that I saw a documentary recently, and they talked about how many people that are sitting in our jails and our prisons, a lot of it is connected to them and their inability to be able to read and to read at a functioning level in our community and our society. So this does impact all of us.
Yes, and I'm happy to answer that, but I do have to say that I don't get it all done. I have a phenomenal team. I have phenomenal supporters, and we have thousands of people that help us, and so collectively we are moving the needle forward. But on the area that you've talked about, those incarcerated, and even our juveniles in juvenile centers, it's like 85% illiteracy. We know that not solving this for decades has created these institutions that are housing people that, if they were literate, they would not be there. And so I see K-12 education as the jump start, but that we do need to send tutors to do one-on-one work, either in person or virtual, to our juvenile centers and to our jails. And it will lessen all of that. And then all those people are part of society, helping us take care of those that really need us to take care of them. And so you're absolutely right about that. Most people don't talk about that.
Pamela Good with us here. She's the president from Beyond Basics. How can people find out more about your organization and also getting involved in your mission?
Yes. So beyondbasics.org. Go to our website. You can call our office. I think our contact information is there. I would say advocate. Kids in your own community struggle with reading. That is the problem. And if you can sponsor kids reading, you can do that on the website. And if you want to become a tutor, we need more and more tutors. So we'd be happy to have help in any of those areas.
Well, thank you so much again for being with us. We always appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate being able to speak out.